Glad to have you here for a session on revolution mobile application development with Generative AI. Today we have Ram and Pranay, Android techniques in Airbnb, who will show us how AI can automate tasks, generate code, and optimize design to supercharge your application development process. You will also get to see a live demo and learn practical tips for integrating AI into your workflow. Let's get started. Please welcome Sriram and Pranay. Uh, okay, just a second. Uh, all rest of the people are requested to not do any kind of sickness.
Okay, now let's get started. I'm not sure if Google Meet has an option to turn on recording, but like assume that this is being recorded. Let me share my screen. Hey folks, welcome to our session Supercharging Mobile App Development with Gen AI. I'm Pranay Aaron. I am currently a mobile tech lead at Airbnb.
My name is Sriram. I'm working as a mobile tech lead at Airbnb as well.
So, what will we achieve today? First, we'll see how to leverage Gen AI to build mobile apps. We'll create comprehensive UI components using AI assisted code generation. We will assemble full app screens with Gen AI support. And then in the end, we'll see what are some of the advantages and disadvantages of developing with a generative AI. So you might be asking, why Gen AI in app development? So Gen AI is your new coding companion. It accelerates and prototypes. It accelerates your development and prototyping process. It helps you reduce boilerplate code and repetitive tasks. It also helps you translate design and ideas into the code, and it enhances your creativity and problem solving. It also helps you streamline debugging and optimization. No more searching Stack Overflow. You can just ask Gen AI to do that for you. And it also allows you as a developer to focus on core functionality and user experiences. These are some of the popular tools in hundreds of tools that are available that you might know. So ChatGPT, GitHub Copilot, Cloud, and Gemini. So what will be our Gen AI workflow today? So we'll have an input as a Figma file of a fully functioning app. We'll give this app to Cloud, our Gen AI solution, and ask it to create a full functional compose-based code. We'll take that code and then create components and screens. And from that, the output would be compose-based Android code. We'll take that Android code and merge it and add some developer touch. So this is how we will go. So let's see what is our app, Sriram.
Okay, thank you, Pranay. Um, a little bit context. Me and Pranay, we are both huge foodies. We like to cook food a lot, but before cooking, we like to order food a lot. So today we are going to do food ordering app. There are two screens over here, and these two screens are basically coming out of the open source Figma file. Let me just quickly go through these two screens. The first screen, you can see I can search for some food, groceries items. I can put a location. I see some burger, pizza, Mexican items as like some chip elements. I'm able to even look for restaurants, something right near me. On the second screen, I guess if I tap on one of the chip items, it seems to be taking me to the detailed screen of that particular restaurant and one of the items. Looks like I can even add some items to the cart as well. So what our finish line would be, we want to build functional UI components. We will take, we will split the screen into small reusable components, and we'll try to ask our AI system to build these components for us. We'll also want to make sure that these two screens are interactive. And then we need to have a way to visualize, right? So we'll ask our AI system to build previews. And for the foundation of future development, we'll ask some interesting things, which I won't reveal at this stage, but you will know. Generating UI components, introducing cloud AI. So what is cloud? Cloud is an LLM. It's a natural, it basically takes whatever prompt from you and then spits out whatever you need. It is built by Anthropic AI. It is really good for code development, even compared to ChatGPT. So if you want it to write out code, you can always ask for it, and it spits out code in a format that it can be easily integrated in your IDE, be that be Xcode, IDE, Android Studio, or any IDE that you would be using. So in our session, we'll be using Cloud as our AI system. Prompt engineering. Okay, so before talking about prompt engineering, I have a question. So think of this scenario. I joined a new team in a new company. I have a couple of questions. Maybe I'll ask a question. Hey, Pranay, I want to introduce myself to this new team in this new company. What do you think I should be doing?
I think you should be sending an email to them.
I like that as well. What do I write in that email?
Based on your experience, you should talk about your experience in coding, what you like, your family, and any interesting tidbit about you.
Okay, I like that. Maybe I'll put some stuff about me and my family. What about my hobbies?
That is a fantastic idea. You should definitely be putting your hobbies in your introduction email.
Okay, I like that. Okay, that sounds good. So technically what we've done, what I had with Pranay is a conversation of what I want, and there was a back and forth. And ultimately, assuming that Pranay is one of the AI systems, Pranay will be, I'll make my inputs, and Pranay will have a beautifully worded email for me to send it across. And that is the same theme that we are going to follow in this presentation as well. So in our theme, like in our presentation, as we explained, we are going to build a food ordering app with two screens. So we need to let AI system know what we are building, and that is a prompt. And on the screen, I'm explaining we are using the latest version. We want to use the latest version of Jetpack Compose. For those who are new to mobile development, Jetpack Compose is a declarative UI framework built by Google. So for iOS folks, it's an equivalent of Swift UI. For web folks, it's an equivalent of React framework. And it's also an alternative for Flutter. With that in mind, so I'm going to ask, hey, can you please follow Material Design 3 guidelines? This is the material design library from Google. Uh, Ultimately, we want our code to be clean, efficient, documented. We want our UI components reusable. We want UI components to be visualized. And at the very minimum, we want our UI components to have some kind of click listeners as well. So for each UI component, I want to describe them. I'll try to describe them. I'll try to add an image, and I'll ask my AI system to build out a fully compiled code where I can just copy paste it and put it in my IDE and run it, and it should work. But wait a minute, this is like a huge prompt. How do I even come up with such kind of prompt? There is an AI for AI prompt as well. And in this, I just want to quickly go through this. One of the links that I want to go through is, so we have something called as a free ChatGPT prompt generator. So in our case, hey, I want to build an Android app using screenshots in Compose. And then I'll ask the system to generate what should be the prompt. As you can see, this is how the prompts are generated. And we are not using this particular prompt in our presentation, but I just wanted to go through this example. Okay, so we still need to set the context. And what is the context? We are basically saying that we want to build all of this. So right now I'm jumping towards a meta tool. In this presentation, as I mentioned, that I'm going to use abacus.ai, which is basically a wrapper over all these LLMs. We can use multiple LLMs as well, but in our presentation, we'll be using cloud. So I'm going to copy paste all of this, and I want to set up context. The context is that, hey, I'm developing an Android app, blah, 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 etc. So the LLM understands it, got the context, it is ready to go. Good. Okay, so the first component that we want to build is food item type card. Visually, you can see that there's a burger. It has a gray background. It has a rounded rectangle gray background. And I can see the burger text is right below the gray background. So this is going to be my prompt. I'm going to tell Jetpack, I'm going to tell the AI system that before I'm going to attach the screenshot, and I want to name this composable as a food item type. I want to make sure that it understands that the burger image itself has a gray background and the text comes right below it. So why don't we head towards cloud and attach the first prompt. So in the interest of time, we already have screenshots attached. So exactly know what I'm even attaching. So this is the same burger component. I'm basically saying that, can you please make sure that the composable that you're generating is food item type? So I'm asking this. Okay, this looks good. Okay, this is a lot of code, right? It basically seems to have done column, card, image, spacer, text, etc. And it also generate a preview annotation, which means I can visualize it. Let's just copy paste it all of, or I can just do this. Food item type. Paste it. Okay, looks like some of the imports are not working. Let me ask use material theme. All right. So when I said, hey, can you use material theme instead of theme? Because looks like it's not resolving properly. So I'm just going to copy paste it. It apologized. I accept its apology. And looks like I don't have any issues now. I'm going to run this and see what is going to happen. Okay, it looks good, but I don't think the rectangle has rounded corners. So why don't we head to our AI system and ask it to build it again? This looks good, but can you make sure that the gray rectangle has rounded corners? Okay, so looks like it probably, let's see, this looks. Okay, as you can see, I'm not running it again. It got auto ran, and you see it is pretty close as what we want. Let's just go back to our presentation. We have a burger, a gray background, rounded corner, and the text is below. As you can see, we were able to easily build this component. Let's try the next component. So Next component is a nearby hotel card. So I see an image of, I believe these are tacos, and I can see a heart icon all the way towards the left. I see some kind of location icon, says 2.2 kilometers away, and then there's some kind of star rating as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow the same procedure. I'm going to describe as much as I can, as well as attaching the screenshot. So I'm going to say, first I will say, can you name this composable as nearby hotel card? And I will say, can you make sure that the heart icon is on the top left or top start, and it has a white circle background, and the location icon is black in color, and a preview component as well. So let's head to our prompt 2, copy paste this. Let's head to our AI system, attach the right screenshot, which should be this. Copy paste it, hit it. Okay. Okay. It's a lot of code. Let's see if it compiles. So I'll go to my nearby hotel card. This is empty file. Paste it. Seems to work fine, except that we don't have this drawable, but that's okay. I have drawables in my folder. Okay. Looks like, let me run this. Oops. It did a decent job, but looks like the text is on the image. Maybe we can ask AI system to fix that. You did a good job. Can you ensure all the text is below the image? Okay, let's give this a shot. Okay, as you can see, this looks pretty much as what we want. What did we want? Something like this. Okay, pretty much, except one problem. I still see there's a gray background on the text, and over here there's no gray background. We can ask our AI system. Thank you. For that, can you make sure that the card has white background, or maybe the component? Oh, sweet. Okay, so the card has white background. It has a hard icon towards the top left. I agree, it is filled with paint. We can always modify that at a later point. For the most part, it looks like this. Okay, now I'll move on to the next component. So the next component is a food item. Over here it says a pizza, but the description is burrito bowl. I see that the image is of a different size. It has some kind of dimensions. So I'll have to make sure that I keep that in mind. The heart icon is again on the top start. And I see this an add icon all the way towards the bottom end. And the add icon seem to have a gray background. So we'll make sure that we um, input all of this into the AI system. So let me go to my Sublime. It's the exact same text. I'm basically copy pasting it in my AI system. And then I'm going to say, can you generate this? It should be this food card. So just to give a recap, I'm asking the AI system to build a composable, and the composable name should be food item. And the dimension should be 170 by 150. Okay, so let me just copy this and back to my Android Studio, food item, copy paste it. Everything looks good except the drawable is not there. Let me just use a local drawable. Sure, food item, and then let's run it, see if it works. Oh, this looks reasonably okay. The only problem is the heart icon is all the way towards the top right. So why don't we ask head to our AI to fix it? Hey, that looks good. Can I have the heart icon on the top start? So as you can see, the AI is not always, the AI system will not always be right at the first go. You always have to have some kind of conversation. The more verbose you are, the better it is. And sometimes being more verbose is probably not enough. And at that point of time, you keep tweaking your prompt and get to a stage where you have the component, or maybe sometimes you call it a day and then you build it yourself, or take it from what you have and then you build on that. Okay, it seems like it's fixed. I see that the icon is slightly bigger in size, but that can always be fixed. Let's look at how it looks from the, it's pretty much similar. I can see the hard icon, I can see the location icon, although the location icon is slightly different. I can see an add icon, I can be able to add as well. Okay, that looks pretty good. We can always adjust the plates, the palettes, color palettes. I want to head towards the next, which is, let's call this as a food items info. This looks pretty straightforward. It simply contains a text of the item. I can see a heart icon. I can see a navigation icon and reviews. So essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to let the AI system know that, can you name this as a food item composable? The heart icon is in the top end and it has a circular orange background. Overall, the component itself has a white background, and the navigation icon is black in color. And this time I want to make sure that it creates a preview component with the name that I need, which is preview component 2, food item preview 2. So I'm going to head to AI system. I'll ask AI to do this for me, which is this screenshot. Copy paste this. Nice. All right, let's see. So one thing I did was he did create a preview with food item preview 2, the name that I wanted. I'll go ahead and put this in food item info and we'll see. Oh, hmm. Actually, you know what? I think I probably have introduced the wrong screenshot. Let me just clear this and then just relaunch it. Let me just relaunch this. Okay, there we go. Okay, let's just copy code here. Head to our Android Studio. Okay, one of the things that it didn't work is it tried to add navigate icon. Maybe for now we'll just use some other icon. Let's just call it location on icon. Okay, running this. Oops. Okay, it looks good. Maybe I'll just ask the AI assistant to make the title text a little smaller. Made the same mistake. This looks good now. Rerun it. Okay, it has probably has everything that we need. Egg Benedict, blah blah blah. I don't have the location icon, but that's okay. It's pretty much the same component that I have. It has a beige background. The stars or reviews are there. It's pretty much everything that I need. We'll move on to the next one, which is food filter chip. So for this looks really simple. All it has is this, I guess it has a pill component with chicken text inside. So we need to make sure that it can has chicken, burger, or any of the food items. So this is going to be the component where I'll just say, make sure that the composable name is food filter chip and there's a preview component. I'll head to AI, head to my prompt, and then just attach a screenshot. I'm assuming this will be screen straightforward. Yep, this looks straightforward. Hopefully it works. Running this preview. Okay, this actually looks exactly like what we wanted. This is probably the easiest one, I guess, which is nice. Okay, and now the final UI component. So this UI component is a bit tricky. There are three elements that I find which are interesting, which is I see an add icon, I see a subtract icon. The normal expectation is that when I type on add icon, I want the number to be increased. When I tap on subtract icon, I want the number to be decreased. Maybe I can describe that expectation to the AI system and see if it generates code accordingly. So in my prompt, I'm going to say, hey, first let's name this as an item counter. We'll make sure that the add icon and the subtract icon has white background. And when I tap on the plus sign, the count should increase. And when I tap on the minus sign, the count should decrease. And finally, we want to have some kind of preview component so that it should be interactable as well. So I'll head to my final UI component. I'll go to my AI system, copy paste this, attach the screenshot, which is this, select it, and hopefully it works. Okay, let's see. I'm just going to copy paste all of this. Okay, it doesn't. The only problem is looks like there's a compile import error, which they don't seem to have a remove icon. That's okay. I can have what I have in my drawable, which is IC remove. I'll call this as painter resource. Just adjust this. Oops. Probably not this. Okay. I actually don't know how to fix this. Okay, maybe we'll ask our AI system to say that it looks like, hey, looks like this does not exist. How about let's provide a drawable instead of that. Okay, this looks good. Edges is inputs. All right. IC demo. Do we have IC plus? We don't have IC plus. Okay, since I don't have the IC plus, maybe I'll just use IC location. So we'll just assume location is a add icon. Let's see if this works. All right. So looks like the component has white circle background. Now let's just go bigger size, and then the minus has a white circle background. The initial count is 2, which is fine. When I tap on it, oh, it reduced. When I tap on this, it increased. Okay, this looks good. All right, so this concludes building AI components. Okay, Pranay, do you want to take over?
Yeah. Thanks, Sriram. Okay, so we saw how Sriram used Gen AI to build the components. And so let's take these components and assemble them into a screen. So before we start, we need to set the context first. You might be asking, okay, Pranay, why do we want to set the context? Didn't we already set it? Yes and no. So I'm using the same LLM that Sriram is using, but our instance of the LLM is different, right? If you're doing this on your own machine with the same presentation, the LLM has the context that the components that you have built, what you're trying to do. Because I'm starting fresh, I need to tell my LLM what I'm trying to do. And that's why setting context is essential for me. But there's a small trick in the component that Sriram used and I'm using. Here, I'm instructing the LLM that, hey, I already have set of created components to assemble the screen, and I just need your help to stitch them together. So we are not asking it to create a new screen for a component that doesn't exist. We are telling it that, okay, we do have components that we want to use. Some of this stuff is still the same. We are asking it to use the latest version of Jetpack Compose, follow material take guidelines, write the clean and efficient code. Each screen can have some uh, standard things, right? So let's go and set the prompt. So again, we are in cloud. I'll just put the prompt and let's see what it says. Okay. So what does the LLM says? Okay. It is ready to create the components screens and it is asking us to give us the list of components. So it's saying, okay, give me the list of components that you have already created, the description of the first screen that you want to create, and the final design, right? So let's go. So let's provide the list of components to the LLM. Let's look at the prompt. We are saying that, okay, I have following components available. We have a foot chip component. We describe what this component do. Then we say, okay, it's a nearby component. We again try and describe what it does and a little bit more text. Again, this is all required because my instance of LLM doesn't have any prior context. If you would be doing this all together, you probably might skip this slide altogether. And because your LLM can have the context, and you can say that use all the components that we have generated before. So let's put this. Okay. So LLM confirms all the things that we have said, and now it is saying that, okay, it is ready to create specific screens for each screen. It is asking us to provide a description, a layout, and any other things that we can. So let's look at screen one. This is our screen one. We have, and it's a typical food ordering app. So we have an address picker, we have a search input, we have the carousel of food item type cards that people can select to filter. We have carousel for a nearby hotel cards that shows nearby hotels. And then we have a grid of food cards. So this is how our prompt will look like. We are telling that, hey, I'm at screen one. This is our home screen that will be shown when user opens up the app. This is how the screen is constructed. So we are defining the prompt that, okay, we have an address picker, a search input, a search of a carousel of food and everything. We then tell it that, okay, these are the created components that we had in Compose that we want you to reuse. And we share the API contract. Now, this is not required if the LLM already has a context, but because my LLM doesn't have the context, I have to tell it. If you don't tell it, it will still generate it. We can still say that, okay, put a placeholder for all the components that we created. We are asking it to create a data class to hold some of this data, and we are also instructing it for future, saying that, hey, this some of this data class will also have extra data that we might not be using now. Then we are asking it to create a fully working compose screen with this info. We also tell it to follow the UI that we are attaching in the screenshot. We tells it that, hey, generate the preview for various different device and configuration, and we add some more constraints to it. So it's, for example, don't hard code any item counts and things like that. In the end, we tell it that, okay, why don't you provide me a preview with 5 or 10 simple data for this component so that we can easily review this. So let's look at this in action. How does this work? Okay, so we come here, copy the prompt, we go to cloud, we add it, and then we attach our screenshot. So I'm just going to do the pre-attached screenshot that I have. Okay, let's put this and see what happens. Okay, so it's analyzing document. One thing you will notice is that the AI is still analyzing the image. So it is still reading the image to determine that, okay, what exactly the screen contains, how the ordering is, how the structure is, even though we have described it. Okay, so it's generated bunch of code. It is generating bunch of previews, and then it explains you what exactly it does. So it's very important if you're new to code and you want to understand, okay, what exactly is going on. So let's give it a try. So we're going to come here, copy the code, go to our UI. So I already have the components that Sriram has built. I'm going to come here and go and create the screen. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do is create the screen. Let's call this home screen. I'm going to paste everything here. Let's see what happens. Okay. Everything went through. We created some data classes to hold the data. We created the home screen. It has a bunch of components, but it's missing imports. So it should be easy fix. So let's fix the import. So why does it has missing imports? Because your LLM doesn't know where this code lives because it is proprietary to your code. It's not a standard material code that it can provide an import. And you can easily fix it. You can provide an import. You can instruct LLM that, okay, this is where all my uh, component lives in this package, so it can auto import it. Okay, so looks like everything is solved. We generated a full screen code with an existing component. So let's see if this even works. Okay, come here. So let's come here and see what happens. Sorry, it's a little slow. Come on, Gradle. There are certain things that even AI cannot fix. Gradle is one of them. Okay. So it's gonna build the whole thing. I think it's slow first time, and then it should be comparatively faster. Okay. Ooh, what happened? It crashed. Let's look at this. So the LLM generated code that crashed. Oh, no, no, it didn't crash. It worked. Okay. So you can see it generated the whole preview. It generated the whole screen along with like moving components, grids, everything. You can see that, okay, it's working. This is working. Food is searching. It won't happen because we have not wired the view model here, but the entire screen is working with just one single prompt. Okay, so this is our preview. So now let's try and have some fun. What do we want to do? How about asking AI to generate multiple previews? Okay, let's do that. This is my prompt. We are telling it that, hey, can you help us generate different previews to test in two other non-English language? We also tells it that, hey, provide sample data in non-English language for those preview as well. Let's see what happens. Okay, gonna do that. It's telling us that, okay, uh, add this sample data that I'm providing it, and these are the composable previews of those screens. So let's go back here, let's come down, and I'm going to show you how this previews look. So in Android Studio, you can see there is a preview panel that shows our preview. Okay, so you're going to come here, copy paste this. Okay, you can see it generated preview in English, Spanish, and Japanese. So let's see if this preview is working. Okay, we see in the home screen preview, we see a preview in Spanish, right? And then we see a preview in Japanese. So it's not only helping you create the screen, it is also helping you test it. Okay, what next? What about night mode? Let's ask it. Yeah, what about night mode? So can it help us generate previews for night mode? Yeah, it looks like it does. Okay, it is telling us what to do. Uh, and you can clearly see it automatically switched, uh, added a different name for the preview. It changed the dark themes to true. Now, unfortunately, we don't have this, right? So we don't have the theme. But if we had support for night mode, this could have been the preview easily generated by cloud. Okay, let's move on. So let's do screen two now. So this is our screen two. It would be very similar exercise. So we have a cover image, we have food chips that we created components before, we have a food item info, description, and grid of food cards. So this is how our prompt will look like. And notice, I'm not setting the context again because when we started the screen building, we already set the prompt, we already set the context. So now for screen two, we are just asking it. We are just saying, hey, we are attaching the screen to, this is our food details screen that will be shown when someone clicks on the restaurant or food, right? And this is how the screen is constructed. Very similar that what we did with screen one. We tell it that what are the components that we created, but one major difference, we are telling the prompt that, hey, we already have some of these data classes that we created in screen one, and we don't want for you to recreate those classes, but reuse them. Again, the prompt is telling that to create a fully working compose screen and same stuff that we saw. So let's move to prompt two. AI is very good at detecting spellings. So even if you make some spelling mistakes, it should still work. Okay, so we're going to add file two. So restaurant details screen. We're going to select and see what happens. Okay, so it started with the code. Again, very similar code that it is doing. Okay. It is creating the sample data for the previews, adding it in the theme and everything. Now it tells us that, okay, this is the restaurant details. So let's go and create a restaurant details file first and compose. So let's close the home screen. We'll come back here, come and say that, okay, like I want to create a custom file. Okay, now let's go back and copy the code. Copy the code, paste it here, and see what happens. Ooh, mostly everything is working with some imports. Let's fix the imports. So let's fix our R's. Now let's fix our imports for each of the components that we have. We'll come and fix some of the issues after this. Okay. All our inputs are fixed. Okay, let's come down here and see what is the issue. So it is saying, okay, there is an elevation, but there is no elevation concept on surface. So you can see sometimes the uh, AI can generate garbage code, or it is still assuming that there is some API that it doesn't exist. So in this case, it is saying it's elevation, but we see that there is two elevations, tonal and shadow. Let's change this to shadow elevation. Okay, everything looks good. It's compiling. So let's try and run this and see what happens. So come to the device again. We ran our restaurant details preview. Let's see if it can render it. Okay. Fantastic. Look at this. So it is not only reusing the components that we created, it has created things that doesn't exist. So for example, this description, this image, it is taking it full bleed, and it has created this add to cart button, the plus minus stuff that we have listed down, and even the grid. You can see that, okay? Like we can scroll that grid. Amazing. Okay, let's go back. Okay, so this is how our preview looks like. It didn't honor the orange button, but you can still prompt it. So what more can we do? Should we generate more preview? I don't think so. We already did that. What about test? Nobody likes to write a test. Okay, can AI like? Does AI like to write tests? Let's ask. Can you help me generate test for this screen? Okay, let's look at this. What does AI do? Okay, it can help us generate a fully functional composed test to test the entire screen, okay, without writing a single line of code. It is not only importing, it is not only generating the test, it is also telling us that, okay, you should import these dependencies if it's already not import. It's telling us that, okay, it's writing the full test, right? So it's putting a test rule, it is creating the sample restaurant, it is creating the menu, then it is calling the test to set the content, and then it tests whether it is displayed or not, the name is displayed, the description, and it can go as far as you want, right? So the more complex your screen becomes, the more testing you can do. Okay, so what did we learn today? Let's recap. So we saw different AI tools and how we can use them, right? We saw generating UI components just from screenshots. So even though we had a prompt, we still gave a screenshot and it still analyzed the screenshot. We also saw why effective prompting is must for generating code. If we are not able to explain the LLMs what we want, it will hallucinate and generate things that might not exist. We also assembled two full screens with AI. But we saw some challenges in prompt engineering. Crafting an effective prompt requires skills and practice. Though there is an AI for an AI, it still requires some practice. So the prompts that you saw are not the first prompt that we created. We have to tweak those prompts to make this presentation effective. Otherwise, we would have a lot of issues. So for example, we saw that, okay, it is not generating the text uh, below, uh, below the image. It is overlapping it, things like that. Repeat experiments are usually needed to get the results you want, and it could be a little bit time consuming, but as you practice, you will get better at it. Lastly, there are biases present in training data, and it can be reflected in generated code. So for example, the training data might not be aware of newer APIs that exist because it is not updated since, let's say, 2023, and it might not able to generate the new code or new API code. So what's next? Everybody might be wondering, is my job safe or will I even get a job? Remember, AI is not replacing you. AI is a tool, it's not a replacement. Think of it this way. There were times when people used to code in Notepad++. There was no IDE, it was just a giant notepad. When invention of IDEs and popularity of IDEs didn't replace people who were doing Notepad++, right? It just accelerated their app development or development cycle. All the time, AI will generate unwanted content and requires a lot more work. Code reviews and solid design is still very important, regardless of how the code is generated. And we need to balance developer expertise and AI assistance together. Thank you, and we will answer all the questions that we have in the chat. Give me a second. We stop sharing.
I answered a couple of them.
Okay, let's go back. Okay, so we thank you for the session. So Sriram has answered mostly everything that we have. Is there anything, Sriram, that we need to answer on video?
Um, I, I don't know. I mean, I didn't answer all of them, but if there are more pressing questions, if someone likes to raise their hand, they can feel free to answer, ask the
Yeah.
question and then answer.
Also, like I saw one question that I like to answer. So one of the person was asking, okay, it is too time consuming. Why can't I write it by hand? You can of course write it by hand, right? Like it's not about what we can do or not. The whole idea with AI is that like if something is taking you 4 days to do, with the help of AI, you might able to accelerate that and complete it in 2 days. Or if there are things that you don't like to do, for example, I don't like to generate this many previews because I have to feed this data and I don't want to generate this data. So you can use AI for that. So it's up to you on how you want to utilize these tools. These tools are available for everyone to use. And like if you are not utilizing, someone else is, and someone else is moving faster than you can. Some of these tools are costly. Yes, they do cost money to run. But as more and more tools will become popular, it is certainly possible that a lot of these tools will come for free. So, for example, Google gives an AI assistant, which is not that great, for free in Android Studio. GitHub Copilot for student is pretty cheap. I think it's nearly free. And then there will be all these platforms that will provide some version for free that you can use, but it then gets restricted as you use. So the cost of these tools are getting smaller. So the tool that we saw, Abacus, we are just paying $10 a month, but it allows you to access all the GPTs that they are there. So you can access ChatGPT Pro, Gemini Pro, Cloud. It even allows you to do Facebook Llama, which is a self-deployed solution, so which you cannot find it elsewhere. So things like that. So you do choose your tool wisely, and yes, it will have some subscription involved, but yeah.
Hey, Pranay, there is an interesting question that you may want to answer this. I think one of them is, what skills should I focus on before starting with Gen AI?
So Gen AI is ultimately generating code. So you still need to understand the code it's generating, because if you don't understand code, you'll not get issues that you will see. And if you know it can generate 100%, the UI still sucks. Right? Like it did 80% of the job, but that 20% is still requires good understanding of fundamentals. For example, people are using Flutter. You still need to understand Flutter code to be the issues that Gen AI do. All it is doing is helping you move faster, but you need to have basic understanding of how to code. You can use AI, in fact, to learn how to code as well.
A follow-up question is, what about backend?
Backend is even awesome, right? So the AI, like we have seen AI everywhere, right? Like backend code is much because it's not UI specific. It is much more uh, probabilistic to generate backend code because there are standard patterns on doing things. Things don't change in the variant, right? Like for example, if you are creating a REST-based API, the API contract can be different, but the way in which the API is generated is very standard pattern. So unlike front end, I believe backend things are much easier to do in Gen AI. It is fantastic in writing tests. I'll tell you, I have written hundreds of tests with Gen AI, with like especially unit tests, because I can ask it to generate variants of tests with test data automatically, right? So instead of writing 4 tests, with the help of AI, I might be able to write 30 tests. So it can cover every scenario that is possible. It is available for all the languages that you can think of. I don't think there's a language bias. So regardless of Flutter, React, whatever you're using, Java, Kotlin, even languages like Rust, it should all work. Watch, yeah. So there are certain questions about like starting your journey. It's very hard to answer some of those, right? So I think learning any technology, you should start learning with the things that are available to you, and just start building things and shipping things. Things are much easier to build and ship on front end, unfortunately, compared to back end. So if you are doing back end development, it might not be easy to deploy things that easily. Versus, hey, if you are building an app, it's very easy to ship an app to Play Store or like open source it and do things like that. So I believe learning by doing is the best way, and at least the approach that I have took in my career. So let's take a few more questions. So Shiram, you want to answer, what do you all use for development?
Yeah, it's a good question. Assuming that the user is asking, Arvind is asking about personal development, is it like if it's like app development, we obviously use Kotlin Compose for app development, and then we use Cloud AI. As far as company goes, we have some kind of properly integrated AI systems that we can use freely, which you can have integration there with your Android Studio as well, so that you don't even lose the context. It's much more fluid in that way. Yeah, so that's the answer.
Thank you for coming to our session. If there are no more questions, uh, how is it?
Okay, so I think questions are over now. Yeah, one last question. Okay, I think can we like
Yes.
from the back and front end and combine?
So we wanted to do a session where, so in this session you saw we went with a app, right, and we asked it to create a UI, create components and things like that. We have seen, not personally, but we have seen asking it to generate a fully functioning web app, mobile app, including backend, including SQL, calls, database, everything. The sky is the limit, right? Like you can practically create a fully functioning Mintra, but it's not about any generate. It's about the understanding of those concepts. If you don't know backend engineering, it would be hard for you to understand the code that it is generating and then deploy code. There is a lot more to programming than just generating code. There are hundreds of things that can go wrong, and you need to understand like how the data flows, security, and a lot of things. But it can definitely it's very good from 0 to let's say 80, but you are still putting efforts from 80 to 100 to chip. Sorry, Carl, you can. Sorry, there is so many things in the chat.
Actually, he's asking whether full Java developer will be in demand in future or not.
So I don't think we have to answer this, right? Java existed when I started coding 15, 17 years back. It still exists, and I will tell you this: it will still exist for future that I can see. All the languages have their niche. There are people using because the language was developed in 70s and 80s, right? There is still demand for people that on that. Even though Kotlin is replacing Java, the JVM is gonna stay the same. Everyone, all the languages are still being compiled to JVM. One thing that I'll say is that don't get hung up on technology of choice. Don't get hung up on like, hey, should I do cross-platform or should I be mobile Android developer or Flutter developer or React, or like should I learn Dart, Kotlin, Java? You be flexible, start somewhere where you are comfortable with, and be open to adopt any technology and use all this tooling to help you assist that. Yeah, so Sriram shared Abacus AI. It's a meta LLM. What basically it is doing is it is providing a service on top of all existing LLMs for one single subscription. Is there scope of data science in future? Again, all the questions related to scope. I don't want to discourage anyone. There is scope for everything, everywhere, right? So as long as you are serious about what you are doing, there should be scope in DS as well. And interestingly, there is a lot of AI work that is going in data science as well for things like generating SQL queries just from normal text. So instead of you saying, hey, select star or like generating complex queries, you will just define your queries in natural language and some of this will generate for you. So the scope in everything. Do you want to add something on this?
I don't think you should be worrying about scope, but like particular field, and you should do it if you have interest in it, and then you should first try to master it before even coming towards like LLM or whatever it is. And yeah, I mean, for there are questions like pathway for coding and developing skills. I see that Scroll Hacks already has posted links, and I would say just pick one, like pick all, try as much as you want, like front and back and mobile development, try different languages, see what suits you, see what you feel naturally comfortable with, and then and just make progress in that direction. Yeah, I think.
So we'll not be talking a lot about Airbnb, but like we do rely on Gen AI as well, right? Like everyone is using it everywhere in all the companies. And as I said, like if you are not using it, there's someone else who's using it and moving faster than you. So it's just about that.
Okay, so I think that's all from the question side. Okay, yeah. So finally, it's come to an end. So thanks a lot, Pranay, once again to come along with us, and yeah, thank you all that are in this conversation. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks. Bye bye.